I couldn't get up here and give a sermon about women's work without checking on our little friend who had some stuff to say a minute ago. She's great and hanging out back there with her awesome mama. So I planned this service a while ago, which was before the Pope went and died, so it's a little different, and that's okay. I've seen a lot of people offer varying reactions and responses to that news, and some more graceful than others. I've heard some speak of Pope Francis's compassion and his genuine Christ-like qualities, and others say that perhaps we shouldn't applaud too loudly for the leader of an organization with such a long history of harm. One thing I love about being a Unitarian Universalist is our commitment to pluralism, the idea that many things can be true at the same time. Yes, the Catholic Church has historically committed atrocities against humanity and contributed to the ongoing oppression of women, queer people, and other beloved children of God who embody marginalized identities. Yes, Pope Francis was an unusually kind representative of that organization. And yes, he was radically committed to loving his neighbors and encouraging us to do the same. No, it wasn't enough. Yes, he did, in his way, bend the long arc of the moral universe towards justice. No, it didn't change everything. But I want us to remember something. The institution of the Catholic Church has existed for thousands of years. And Pope Francis was the first to say, just days before his death last week, quote, "When women are in charge, things work." Sometimes in my outrage and overwhelm of how far we have yet to go, I forget just how miraculous it is that I arrived on this big, hurtling space rock with my loud mouth and my call to serve just in time to have a chance to follow my dreams. I was baptized in the Catholic Church in 1993. I like to joke that it didn't take, but my grandfather hates that joke. I fell in love with the ritual of it as a small child, and if there had been a place for my ministry in the church of my ancestors, I'm confident I would have been a priest. I recently learned that my younger cousin, born in 1998, was among the first generation of young women allowed to serve as altar servers in the Catholic Church. It amazes me and breaks my heart to know that for generations, the women of my family worshiped and took communion at an altar they were deemed unfit to serve. All the while, of course, performing endless, strategically minimized labor to make everything happen behind the scenes. Sometimes I have to pause and remind myself that I am living through a fascinating time in history. I am living a life that my ancestral mothers may have never even dreamed was possible. When my aunts were born, they had significantly fewer rights than I did when I was born. Though in 2022, we all slid backwards in history when our right to bodily autonomy was severely undermined due to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I personally had the most rights to my own body between 1993, the year I was born, and the year marital rape became unlawful in every state. In 2022, the year I turned 29, lost access to essential health care based on my sex, and for the first time in my life, had less right to control my own body than my aunts did when they were born in the 1970s. In 2015, I became pregnant unexpectedly, carefully weighed my options, and chose to have my son, who y'all got to meet this morning. In 2025, I'm a solo mom to a 9-year-old and my reproductive choices are severely restricted, and my access to standard health care is directly proportional to my privilege. Even in states with total abortion bans, those with the privileges of resources, time, and support can still find ways to access the care they need. Far too often, however, it becomes a dangerous game with red tape blocking access to desperately needed medical care with people's lives on the line. These scenarios end with women and pregnant people dying. They end with more children in an already overburdened foster care system, and they end with people with more children they can afford being consumed by parenthood in a society that lacks the most basic infrastructure for children and families. And they end with women, again, undergoing labor that makes the world turn, all while their own needs and wants are considered less than a second thought. So let's put a pin in that and think about Swifties for a second. What comes to mind when we think about Taylor Swift and her fan base? I really like audience participation. You really can shout it out. Like, what comes to mind? What words? What do you think about Taylor Swift? Or what comes up?
Wealthy. Fabulous.
Fabulous. Wealthy. What else? Free. Outspoken.
Friendship bracelets.
Friendship bracelets. Yes, friendship bracelets. Sorry? Entertainer, compassion, yes, wow. Sorry? Caring, yes, absolutely. So, yeah, Taylor Swift is a loud, joyful, liberated, free woman, and her fans represent those demographics a lot too, and those ideas. So, who's afraid of shrieking, joyful, sparkly, smart, and liberated women living their best lives and doing what makes them happy? I like that I didn't even have to dedicate that song to anybody. Y'all just got it. So yeah, who's afraid of Taylor Swift? Who's afraid of empowered women? Who's afraid of 4 million people across the world showing up to say hands off our sanctuaries, hands off our communities, and hands off our democracy? The answer, the people who are scared of that, is bullies. When we take them at face value, we can see that the biggest bullies out there, and yes, I'm generalizing, don't come at me, are sad, strange little men. It is strange, it is weird to pour so much energy into controlling and harming other people. It is weird to say vile things about your neighbors, even if we disagree with them. It is strange for our so-called leaders to model that type of behavior. I would be tempted to call it childish, but I think that would be insulting to children. It is strange to say nothing when our neighbors are being kidnapped from their communities and imprisoned in foreign concentration camps without due process. It is strange to pretend this is a time for committee meetings and a casual faith when we stand to lose everything our ancestors have fought for. These bullies can't seem to fathom a world where they are serving their communities, not being served. The individuals, organizations, and power structures that depend on domination depend on invisible labor to survive. Strategically minimized labor. I don't ever want to hear somebody talk about, unskilled labor again. You work a double on Christmas Eve and then come talk to me in a restaurant about unskilled labor. But the thing is, these sad, strange little men are scared. They are terrified. They are terrified that if they lose the upper hand, they will soon be treated the way that they have long treated those that they would consider less than. They are terrified of being treated the way that society treats women, and really, they're just mean. The only system of power they understand is one of domination, and if they're not first, they're last, and they know exactly how much it sucks to come last in this race. The good news, though, is that feminism isn't interested in oppressing anyone. The idea is collective liberation, community care, and healing the wounds in our society that led us to believe that we are separate from our other human beings in the first place. I know this time is full of anxiety. I know this time is full of division and stress and worry, and I hope that we can all find spaces and places and people where we can fully rest and relax in what brings us joy, in what feels empowering, in what fills us up. Because there is nothing scarier than a whole bunch of Unitarian Universalists realizing their power. There is nothing scarier than a whole bunch of young women doing exactly what makes them happy. There is nothing scarier than the woman on this stage living her best life without a man telling her what to do. May we work together to build a world full of sweet harmonies and friendship bracelets, where all of us have the courage and the freedom to stand up for what is right and to be our full-hearted, sparkly, joyful selves. May it be so, and blessed be.